When though the earth should shake and mountains slip into the sea, come behold the works of God. Come behold the works of God. How he brings destruction, makes the wars to cease. Broken bow and spear, can you hear the chariots burn? Come behold the works of God. 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 He raised his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob's stronghold. The Lord of hosts is with us. He raised his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob's stronghold. The Lord of hosts to be praised. In the city of the Lord, his holy mountain. Beautiful in height, the joy of all the earth. Zion, Mount Zion. The city of the King, Jerusalem revealing. God has made himself its very stronghold. Each king upon the earth assembled still to see Zion, Mount Zion.
To 142. Worthy, you are worthy.
Worthy, you are worthy, King of kings, Lord of lords, you are worthy. Worthy, you are worthy, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you. Holy, you are holy, King of kings, Lord of lords, you are holy. Holy, you are holy, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you. Jesus, you are Jesus, King of kings, Lord of lords, you are Jesus. Jesus, you are Jesus, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you.
Now, 248. 248. Almighty Cross.
Almighty cross, love lifted high, the Lord of life, raised there to die. His sacrifice on Calvary, he made the mighty cross a tree of life to me. Almighty cross, what throne of grace, he knew no sin, yet took my place. His sacrifice on Calvary, he made the mighty cross a tree of life to me. Almighty cross, of Christ so pure, love held him there, such shame to bear. His sacrifice on Calvary, he made the mighty cross a tree of life to me. Almighty cross, my soul's release, the stripes he bore.
thank you for being gathered back in your house this evening, Lord. As we look at your word, we study it, and we learn more about you as we do that. Pray you just be with us tonight, send the Holy Spirit among us, Lord, that again, that we would just want to know more about you and be excited about that. We ask this in Jesus' name. All right. Get them on our blows. Anybody need the paper from last week? Correct answer is yes for those of you who were not here. And if you didn't bring it, that's okay. Did anybody do their homework? And if you didn't, good. If you didn't, do you need a paper? We will not do public shaming, because we're going to do it anyway together, so. Go back here. Right. So first thing, any questions? If you do, like I said, we're going to go through these again, so it's okay. But was there anything you read and you're like, oh, I don't know. Or just in general. Remember I said we're going to, if you have a question about anything that you've read, or this is the opportune time to do that, where we're all together and we can discuss and reason together. So. Oh, my battery's running low. That's no fun. It's okay. I will do it this way. Boom. Done. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I forgot about the man behind the curtain. Because the wizard said to ignore the man behind the curtain. And I did. And I apologize, Jonathan. I should have got you that. So, okay. Let me minimize that because it's going to die anyway. And that. And we're going to go backwards maybe. Works better if you turn it on. Boom, 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 boom. Nope, nope, nope. Did you have the one? Should be one on there from today's date. Go to the one that says today's date, not latest. Because that would be intuitive that I would have labeled today. The latest one latest, but the latest was the last latest. This is not, yeah, this is today's latest. Because that makes sense. So while he's doing that, what do I do with my, goodness gracious, all over the map tonight. All right. While that's coming up. Maybe. No, not that. There we go. Yeah. All right. You were perfect, man. They looked very similar, but they weren't quite the same. So, all right, cool. All right, so as we're going through this, all right, so kind of to highlight, revisit. All right, so biblical themes, as you're going through that, reading through the stories, things to look for. So authorship. So for a majority of the ones that I gave you, who was the traditional author? And I put in their traditional view because some of this stuff is, the tradition holds this, some of this we don't know, and that's okay. Do you have to know who wrote it? No, you don't have to know who wrote it. And don't put down God. Yes, but that's not it's not wrong, but that's not what we're looking for. The reason being, again, because knowing the authorship helps to understand, hey, maybe what's going through the mind. For example, Matthew. Remember we talked about Wednesday night 2 weeks ago, that Matthew says there's 14 generations listed each 3 times. And when you add them up, guess what you find out? It's not 14. It's 41. What was Matthew? Do you think Matthew knew how to count? Yes. So Matthew did that on purpose. So knowing that helps you get some context clues of what's going on. So for most of those I gave you, those coming out of the Torah, who's the author? Moses. Yeah, traditional view of Moses. So who's he writing to? Israelites. Yeah, the Jewish. And this is where sometimes you get into some even the historical aspects. So Moses is writing this to whom? Who's Moses writing it for first? For the Israelites, yeah, and then who's he writing it to? Is he writing for the ones that are with him right there? No, it's the ones that are yet to come, the children of. Remember? Because he says, what's he telling them to do with it? What's the commandment given? To what? Put it on your forehead and on your arms. But if you want a little clue about the mark of the beast, where's the mark of the beast go? Oh, do you think there might be a correlation between those two things? No, of course not. Yeah, of course there's something there. So it's written to the Israelites. And then also thinking about this, it's for the future generations to come, okay, for Moses there. So, the audience, again, 20th century understanding, because that's how we interpret it a lot of times. Is that the right way to do it? Not so much. And we talked about Genesis 1 and 2. Again, day 2 is what? Bible trivia time. Think about the two columns. Day 1 is light and dark. Day 2 is water from water. Yeah, that's on that's the other side. Yeah. So separate. So it's waters from waters, right? Separating the waters from the waters. And what do we separate the waters with? Something. The rakia is what it's called, but it's a firmament. It says there's a firmament, not to be confused with the land yet to emerge. So there's something dividing the waters from the waters. And then day 3 is the dry land appears. So again, that's the biblical model, which is where some of our friends will say the earth is flat. But that's, if we're interpreting from a 20th century understanding, we're going to read that differently. We need to understand how they're reading it. They're reading it literally like this. So when we read Genesis 1 and 2, we need to be thinking this, even though we have telescopes and we understand with modern science. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it was wrong. No, it doesn't mean it was wrong. But this is being written by ancient peoples with an ancient understanding and written to ancient peoples with an ancient understanding. We have to keep that in context when we're reading this stuff, okay? Because Genesis 1 and 2 is not a scientific manual. That's not what it's for. We're not going to go into it, but I encourage you to read the Enuma Elish. It is the Babylonian creation myth. And set that next to Genesis 1 or 2. And you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a lot of similarities, and then you're going to see some serious differences. The Enuma Elish. Don't ask me how to spell that. I've got it in my notes somewhere. Just Google that as best phonetically, and Google will fix it for you, I'm pretty sure. Let's just say there's a cosmic battle, and there's waters that happen, and there's waters that get split in half, or things that get split in half, but there's a battle. What do we see in Genesis 1, verse 2? Do we see a battle? What do we see? God shows up. And the Spirit of the Lord, the Ruach Elohim was present, and the water becomes calm instantly. So we have to keep that in mind. But that also means that we shouldn't necessarily read the Bible if we're going to try to reverse that either with the understanding. That's not what it's. We know the world does not look like that. So my apologies to anybody of that world, but sorry. Yeah. So then you can find out about where Marduk and Baal comes from. Yeah, I think it's Enuma. Elis. There we go. Enuma Elish. So good. It's fun. And why do you? So John, why does it matter? Because this was the stuff that is as far as I want to say companion. This is the other cultures at that time. You want to get a cultural understanding to see what was going on. Check in some of that stuff. It's good literature for nothing else. Sometimes we have this idea that the ancient peoples were stupid. They were not. And the literature that was written is beautiful. It's magnificent. And then you encounter the Bible. This is beautiful literature. It's way more than that, but it's also extremely beautiful literature. And sometimes we miss out on just that little detail. It's beautifully organized, put together. So it's genius in that. So, all right. So authorship, audience, themes, keywords. It's kind of what we've been looking at. We're going to look at that tonight. So what are some of those themes? So what do we got? A garden. Yeah. What we got? Water. Goes along with water, but well, kind of wells, yeah. Mountains. Yeah, why do you think mountains are important? Huh? High places, yeah. What happens on mountains and high places? God visits. Yeah, it's an intersection of heaven and earth. It's where heaven and earth cross. What do we got? Otherwise known as a test. Testing. Moments of testing. That one's a little hard. I had to be careful with that one. That's desiring. So lusting was really where I was going, but I had to be careful. I had to be careful looking for gifts with lusting. That wouldn't fit, you know. Nakedness. Yeah, I had to be careful with that one too. Yeah, and the snake. But what's specifically speaking about this? And I didn't go into that detail. What about that snake? Do you notice? Yeah, it's metallic because it's very shiny. So the serpent is described in the garden as the shiny one. So keep that in mind because you'll see that might be a clue later on. Heel. That was hard to find a heel one. Yeah. We got a head injury, yeah. So a lot of themes there. And then previous or future stories that it reminds you of. What's really cool, again, the Bible will do that. They will play both directions. A perfect example of that is Adam naming the animals. And I said that the same wording that is used about those animals coming there is the exact same wording that's later described with Noah when they're brought 2 by 2, and it says each and its wife. It literally says each and its wife, which is weird, but how else do you want to say that they're pairs, right? They're made of pairs. So that's each and its wife, so then you can apply that in reverse when you're reading that in Genesis chapter 2, that when the animals come by, how are they coming by? They come in 2 by 2. And that's when Adam realizes, they ain't 2 of me. There's two skunks, but there's not 2 Adams. Looking for those hyperlinks. And that's really the key to really a lot of this, especially the narrative, and you'll see it in other areas, is those hyperlinks. You know what I mean when I say hyperlinks? That's an internet term. So if you ever been reading, Wikipedia is the world's worst for this. It's great, but it's terrible. Because if you're reading a news story or something like that, and you happen to see a little blue underlined word, what happens if you click on that blue underlined word? You go somewhere else. And then when you're reading that story, you encounter another blue underlined word. You click on that, and pretty soon you started researching, rabbits, and the next thing you know, you're reading about who knows what. It happens all the time. But that's what I'm talking about with the hyperlinks. The Bible is the same way. That we don't see the underlined words, but we're looking for these underlined words. That's what we're going to do. So what your homework was, that's what we're going to do tonight, is looking for that stuff, and then, what's it pointing to? And then the macro story. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a Messiah. So here's your Bible trivia. What does Messiah mean? Anybody know what it means? Yeah, it just means anointed one. Yeah. So is there lots of Messiahs in the Bible? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lots of them. But they're all pointing to the Messiah, which is Jesus. Yeah, exactly. So look for that, the macro story of it. And then the last one is really is to be curious. What is God wanting you to learn from that passage? So that one's kind of only you're going to answer that one. So, okay. So having that in mind, let's jump into some of these stories. So I'm going to start with one. So pull up in your Bible app, whatever your flavor of reading the Bible is. I printed it off and made my notes on here, so I'm cheating. This is going to be the Lexham English Bible. Lexham is the project of the publisher Logos software. And so one of the reasons I really enjoy reading it is anytime you have the big L, small capital letter Lords, that is the covenant name of God, the Yahweh. It's Yahweh, and so Lexham actually changes that to that. So you actually get to see where it's Yahweh, where it's Adonai or Elohim. it really helps to differentiate that, because a lot of times we just say it's God, but that's not how it's always laid out. So, and it's important why those change. Again, read Genesis chapter 1, and you'll really see when you're reading Genesis chapter 1 and you're reading it in the Lexham, it'll really pop out. All of a sudden, you go from God to Yahweh. Something changes in there. I'll let you read that for yourself and figure it out. All right, chapter 12 of Genesis. And this is Abram. And this one's just, it's just chock full of stuff. So that's why we're going to pick up on that. So, and Yahweh said to Abram, "Go out from your land and from your relatives and from the house of your father to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great." Right off the bat, we encountered it, and I don't know, did I put that on your all's list? I don't think I put that on your, I apologize. Add name. You want to have name on your list. If you don't have one, name is definitely one. I will make your name great. And again, that points back. What was Adam doing? What did he do with the animals? Name them. Yeah, and naming is a sign, remember, it's authority, okay? It's a sign of authority, and then we talked about at the end of Genesis chapter 3, how does Genesis chapter 3 end with? After the fall, after all that, and Adam named Eve. And we see conflict. Adam just went from, we're here, I got cut in half, and here's my other half, and now it's, boom, I'm over you because I named you. It's a whole problem. And then you see how Eve named her children, and I think I read those a little bit different now, and you see some conflict between God and Eve there, and Eve saying, "Hey, look how great I am." But I will make your name great. Who's going to be doing the name? Who's going to be making the name great? God is going to be making Abram's name great. Okay, so he's going to elevate him, and you'll be a blessing. Verse 3, "And I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you I will curse." So we got blessings and curses. I didn't include that one on there, but it's a huge one. Blessings and curses. So keep that in mind. Whenever you encounter things, when you start seeing these stories, and sometimes you're going to encounter that, we're going to see that in this story, we're going to see a curse happening that honestly is unfair. And we should ponder that. There's a reason. And all the families of the earth will be blessed in you. Again, there's that blessing. So think back of what was at the end of the curse. What was the end of the fall? Remember that there was going to be that seed of the woman who's going to crush that snake. So there's a blessing built into all of this coming. Verse 4, "And Abram went out as Yahweh had told him, and Lot went with him." So if this was a musical, what would we have in the background just got played? Dun, dun, dun. Because what did God tell him to do? Go from your land and from your relatives. And Abram went out as God had told him. And Lot went with him. Do you think there's going to be a problem later on in the story because of that? Yeah. So see, we're already telling the story before it even happens. Now, we know what's coming, but even not knowing what was coming, we should be like, wait a minute. God told you to leave your family, and your family went with you. Something's not quite right there. Now Abram was 75 years old when he went out from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his nephew, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and all the persons they had acquired in Haran, and they went out to go to the land of Canaan. And they went to the land of Canaan, and Abram traveled through the land up to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh, which is a what? Tree. Boom, we have a tree. So what happens to trees? When we encounter trees, we see lots of things that happen to trees. But one of the things we see at trees is what? What happened with the tree? The big one. Had fruit, yeah. What was going on though? When Adam and Eve walked over to that tree, what was that a moment of? Testing. Am I going to trust God? Yeah. So, but it was also, what also was around with the trees? Well, it's the place where you met God, right? So it's twofold. So look for both of those themes as we go through there. And that oak is going to factor into the Sunday school lesson from 2 weeks ago, I believe. Actually, no. Well, it could have been this morning, too, but we'll talk about that. Now the Canaanites were in the land at this time. Now, that's kind of a hint, too. We have a lot of Canaanites. Now, who the Canaanites come from? They are the descendants of, not Cain, Ham, yeah. Here's what's weird. The descendants of Cain would be the Canaanites, as opposed to the Canaanites, which usually your Bible will translate them Kenites, possibly because they want to avoid the conflict and wonder of, wait a minute, why do we have descendants of Cain that are post-flood? But that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But it's Canaanite. Land of Canaan. So these are the Canaanites, the descendants of Ham, and whatever went down with Noah. Let's just say that there was somebody knew somebody they weren't supposed to know. We're just going to leave it that way. And there's a reason that Canaan was cursed and not Ham. And I think the whole gymnastics of saying, well, you cursed the son to curse the father, I'm pretty sure we're trying to avoid what really happened there. But if you really want to know, I have no problems talking about that stuff. But we'll move on for the moment being. Canaanites from the land, Yahweh appeared, which also should be, these are bad people, right? This is a problem. It's going to be an issue maybe sometime. Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. And he built an altar there to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. So, at a tree, we encounter God. So this is also, we could also even consider this a what? It's a high place, okay? And note he said he went up to the place of Shechem. So, here's our map. So, well, that's not very clear, but that's okay. So, Shechem's right here. Here we've got Mount Gerizim, and we have Mount Ebal, all right? Do those two names ring any bells, especially maybe from Sunday school lessons of recent note? Yeah, exactly. So this is a huge area in the biblical story, the land of Shechem. And even talks about the Oak of Morah, even, if you read through there. You'll even catch that little hint. It's like, oh. But they went up to the place, so it's signifying that it's an elevated place, okay? We're meeting God there, all right? And it's a place of testing, blessings and curses. If you do what I tell you, you'll get blessed. If you don't, it's a moment of testing there. Flashing forward there. I'm going to give your land. He built an altar there. And he moved on there from the hill country east of Bethel. Oh, by the way, those names, that's not what they're called, because who names Bethel Bethel? Jacob. Jacob hadn't been born yet. So this is an indication here of the author giving you those details before they've happened, okay? So this is Moses like, hey, you know that town Bethel? That's where it happened, okay? It wasn't Bethel then. It gets to be Bethel because Jacob names it that, but this is where it's at, okay? He pitched his tent there at Bethel to the west and Ai on the east. Oh, we just destroyed Ai. Yeah, and to the east, exactly. Yeah, directional. East is bad. Yeah, if you think about that, I did not mention that, but again, that's another huge one. Where do they go cast out of the garden? East. Yeah. And anytime you see they're going to the east, that's a problem, okay? Yeah, exactly. And there, he built an altar there to Yahweh. And he called on the name of Yahweh. He called him the name. So there's something, again, that's the whole name thing going on there. And Abram kept moving on toward the Negev. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went down to Egypt. So we're up top. When we're up, where are we with? With God, right? Now we're going down. And we're going down to where? Egypt. Did anything ever good happen in Egypt? Except for Jesus came out of Egypt, but they fled there. But yeah, that's always a bad thing, right? Egypt is never viewed as a positive thing. And so we're hinting, again, we know the story, and so when we read this, we should be like, Egypt. That's some bad stuff happens in Egypt. To dwell as an alien there, for the famine was severe in the land. Now, did God tell Abram to go to Egypt? No, he doesn't tell him to do that. So he just appeared to him, and, I mean, they talk a lot. Let's be honest. In the story of Abraham, there's a lot of encounters, and even face-to-face, Christophany, theophany appearances of God in a physical form, talking and eating and doing stuff. So I think if God wanted him to go to Egypt, God would have, showed up or communicated somehow to him. But they're going down to Egypt, and it happened as he drew near to enter Egypt. He said to Sarai, his wife, look now, I know that you are a woman beautiful of appearance, and it shall happen that if the Egyptians see you, they shall say, this is his wife, then they will kill me, but let you live. So, what's that key word? See. Ooh, we're seeing stuff. And they're going to see things, and it's not going to go well. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well for me on your account. Then I will live on account of you. Well, what is Abram doing to Sarah here? He's pimping her out. He's pimping her out. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, look, honey, you're gorgeous. And they're going to think you're gorgeous. And if they think you're gorgeous, and they might have a chance with you, we're going to get rich. That's exactly what he's saying. Yeah, there's some sketchy things going on. Abram's a sketchy dude, man. I'm just saying. It doesn't get any better. And it happened that as Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. And the officials of Pharaoh saw her, and they praised her beauty to Pharaoh. Well, we are at what we saw. And then what was the next step? You see, and then you desire. They praised her beauty. What was that? That's the desire, right? And the woman was taken to the house of Pharaoh. We see, we desire, and we take. Ooh, this is going to get ugly. This is getting ugly real fast. Again, that music should be in the background. We should be hearing, this is a minor. This is a very minor song. Alarm bells should be going off here in our heads. This is bad. And he dealt well with Abram on account of her. And he had sheep, cattle, male donkeys, male servants, female servants. Ooh, what? Female servants? Think that's going to happen sometime? You might use that later on. Female donkeys and camels. Then Yahweh afflicted Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues on account of the matter with Sarai, the wife of Abram. Plagues, Egypt, Pharaoh. We should be thinking, But now I got a question for you. It's actually the same question that Pharaoh is going to ask Abraham. So has Pharaoh done anything wrong in Pharaoh's mind? And even in us reading this, has he done anything wrong? No. Yet, who's cursed? Pharaoh's cursed. Huh? Yeah, whether he specifically says it, but obviously Abram did not deny nothing, did he? Because this is the plan to begin with. So this is kind of unfair for Pharaoh, isn't it? In fact, this is what he goes on, he says. Then Pharaoh called for Abram and said, "What is this you've done to me?" Somehow he figures this out. He's like, wait a minute, something bad's going on. And he knows why. What is this you have done? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? So I took her to myself as a wife. Now then, here's your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him and his wife and all that was with him away. In my Sunday school class, I've talked about many times, and I may have said this here. We are terrible liabilities for God. We are horrible. If you think about it, I think I used this example. I said, think about it. If you were in a business meeting, and God is the CEO, and he's sitting around, and he says, "Hey, everybody, we need a new financial department." And you know who I'm going to get? There's a bunch of parolees who just got out of prison for embezzlement. We're going to hire them to be our financial team for the company. Now, the rest of the board of directors are going to be sitting around and looking at him going, "Sir, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." And yet, that is exactly what God does with us. Hey, you know those dirt critters that I made that couldn't even make it one generation without screwing it up? Yeah, I'm going to use them, and I'm going to use them for my plan to deliver them from their own stupidity, to deliver them and save the world. And I'm going to use them to do it. Oh, that's funny. That's good. That's exactly what he does. But in doing so, man, do you realize what he had to do here for Abram? God curses the innocent party to protect the stupid idiot that he's got to use, that he said, "I'm going to use." I partnered with him. If that doesn't bother you just a little bit, we need to dwell on that. Think about that. Man, we need to question ourselves about stuff. Say, am I a liability for God? If he wants to use me for something, yes. Yeah, there's no such thing as a one-sided sin. Yeah, no, for sure. And it affected the innocent party here. Now, is Pharaoh a pagan? Sure. Is Pharaoh a worshiper of Yahweh? No, but he respects him. We'll see that. At least this Pharaoh does. And we'll see later Pharaohs respect him, Yeah. I mean, this is deep stuff. We're just 20 verses into this. And a story that we've been taught as children, since children. Maybe not this part for children, but a little older children will say, teenagers and up. But yeah, have you ever thought about that? Why did Pharaoh get cursed? It's like, God had to step in there, because what if Sarah had gotten pregnant in the process? Remember, at this point, we only know that Sarah and Abram do not have children. At this point, we don't know why. Okay? And we're going to encounter two situations. The next situation, we're going to find out some stuff here. But we don't know at this point who's to blame, if you want to put it that way. I hate to use those terms, but who's to blame for not being able to have children, okay? We don't know. But if Sarah had gotten pregnant in this moment, we wouldn't know whose it was, would we? And that put the lion of Christ in danger. So God steps in here and has to bail his stupid dirt critter out, okay? In doing so, harms the quote-unquote the innocent party. All right, so we saw the seeing, the taking, and the seeing, desiring, and the taking, okay? Boom. Fascinating about the seeing, real quick. I'm going to go back. What does God say at the end of every day of creation? But what's he do to know that it's good? He observes. He says what? And the Lord saw that it was good. So God is also seeing, right? So the seeing isn't necessarily the problem, except that who's defining what is good? God is. What we do when we see and desire and take, we now become the definers of what's good. So and that's what's going on here, okay? So that's the testing. That's what's in here. All right, chapter 16, we're going to skip all the way ahead, all right? So, yeah. Chapter 16, starting here in verse 1. Now Sarai, the wife of Abram, had borne him no children. Oh, now we know. Okay, she didn't have any children. And she had a female Egyptian servant. And her name was Hagar. Remember, we're talking about the names. You know what Hagar means? It means the immigrant. I don't know what it means. It just means she's the immigrant. Well, she is. She's not from her. She's been taken from her country and taken away, so she's the immigrant. Egyptian. Wonder where she came from? Oh, yeah, she was one of those women that Pharaoh gave away when I lied to him, and he made me rich. Okay, all right. And Sarai said to Abram, oh, and take note, who got rich? Abram got rich at the hand of Pharaoh, okay? Well, we're going to see a shift in Abram later on with that. So, Sarah says to Abram, look. Look. That's a bad word to start with. Look, please. Yahweh has prevented me from bearing children. Who's to blame? God. God won't let me do this. Who does Eve blame? Who does Adam blame? God. The woman you gave me. Who does Eve blame? God. The serpent you made. It wasn't me. Yeah. So Yahweh has prevented me. Look, see, Yahweh's prevented me from bearing children. Please go into my servant. Perhaps I will have children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. Then Sarai, the wife of Abram, took Hagar, her Egyptian servant, after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram as her husband, as his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. What do we have? We see seeing, we see desiring, we see taking. Question, another uncomfortable question. Does Hagar get a vote in this? No, we don't. Not at all. It's rape. No other way to call it. Now, why do I bring all this up? Am I trying to destroy Abram? No, I'm not trying to. Because guess what Abram is? He's a sinner. Yeah. And you know what? God's going to use him, and he will further his plan. You want to talk about the sovereignty of God? God will work through stupid dirt critters to accomplish his will in spite of them. Okay? So, I'll leave that one there. But, so, then guess what? Hagar, and he went into Hagar, and she conceived. All right, so right now, who's now the problem for not bearing children? Who's to blame? For Sarai, it's God. Right. But at this point, now who of the two, Abram and Sarai, who is the one that cannot bear children? Sarai. You see what just happened even in their dynamic, their relationship. At that point, they were equal. We can't have kids. Now, she says, God's preventing me from bearing children. Okay, so maybe there's an assumption being made, but we don't know. But now we know Abram is fully capable of bearing children. Sarah is the one that can't. Do you think that might cause a little conflict in the household? Especially when, and we miss out just a little bit. And I'm not, it is definitely a huge thing for couples that want to have children and are unable to. I mean, that is a huge thing. And my heart breaks for them. But magnify that up to this day when this is your life, okay? This is your future. How your family is going to propagate is through children. Not only that, this is your retirement plan, okay? Because who's going to take care of you in your old age? Your kids. If you ain't got kids, who's going to take care of you in your old age? Nobody, Remember, God, he tells God, he goes, Eleazar is going to be the one who inherits my estate. The dude I picked up from Damascus that I bought as a slave, and now he's going to inherit my estate, you know. Pretty cool for Eleazar, you know, but, you know, that's not what Abram wants. That's also not the promise that God keeps telling him. He's like, Lord, you promised me something. Yeah, so, and also, we want to have kids, right? God said I'm going to have kids. God says we're going to have a family, and he's going to bless the whole world through our family. So, let's do it our way, right? Adam and Eve in the garden. What is the commission given to Adam and Eve? What are they to do? What is their job? And what? What else? Remember what the purpose of humanity was? To rule over. Yes. What do you have to rule over? Huh? Thank you, Gru. But what? Huh? Gru, G-R-U, grew from minions. Jonathan caught it, didn't you? He got it. Oh, sorry, I did not enunciate. Not Drew, but grew. Yes. Thank you, grew. Don't blame me. I'm sitting here quietly. Oh, no. What do you have to have, though, if you're going to be a good king or queen? What do you have to have? Well, yeah, kingdom, but what skill set must you possess to be a good one? You have to have wisdom and knowledge. Yeah. And so, Adam and Eve are like, oh, that tree is good for wisdom and knowledge, isn't it? Well, we got to have wisdom and knowledge to rule. Let's get some of that wisdom and knowledge. But who's defining how to do it? They are. They see this is the ends justify the means, which we love to talk about that. Oh, the ends justify. As long as we get to the end point, it's okay. That's what they were doing in that situation, right? Well, we need wisdom and knowledge to rule and to reign. We got to have that. Well, that tree's got some of that. Well, let's get some of that. But God told us not to have that. Oh, and then the snake comes in. Oh, God doesn't want you to be like him. Well, no, he literally made you to be like him. Literally, he says, you are my image bearers. I made you to be my little idol statues, to be on my behalf, to rule and to reign. Let's get some of that tree. Let's get some of that knowledge and wisdom on our way. Boom, Abram, Sarai. Hey, we're supposed to have kids. Go have it. Let's do it our way. We're tired of waiting. I don't want to be patient. I don't want to wait on God, you know? It's a fascinating question to ask, and there's no answer to it because we cannot answer it because we don't know. But there's many views that Adam and Eve eventually would have been able to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. And note, I do refer to it as the knowledge of good and bad because that's the wording. It's not the knowledge of good and evil. We translate it as evil all the time. But it's not evil, it's bad. Tov and Ra. Ra just means bad because God does lots of Ra. It says that, you know, I will do Ra to you. And if you're the one, you know, if you're the kid that's getting spanked, is that good or bad that you're getting spanked? From the kid's perspective, that is Ra. That is really bad, right? But it doesn't make it evil. It just makes it bad, at least from your perspective. So, yeah. So there's many that view that, oh, eventually they would have been able to, when they were mature enough to handle that knowledge, they would have been given it. They would have been able to have that. Because it's the knowledge of the good and the bad, okay? And God possesses that knowledge of the good and the bad, okay? All right, so moving on. They're gonna do it our way. This is like, it was a Burger King, have it your way. So yeah, now Hagar, when she saw, this is the middle of verse 4, and when she saw that she had conceived, then her mistress grew small in her eyes. Ooh, we got some seeing here. So nothing good's going to happen there. We're going to see conflict again. And Sarai said to Abraham, may my harm be upon you. I had my servant sleep with you, and when she saw that she conceived, she no longer respected me. May Yahweh judge between me and you. All right, let's drag God back into it again. Right? And God's like, I had nothing to do with this. Come on, people. You know, but they're going to drag him back into it again. Why do you think she's dragging God into it? It's the trump card. This is the one up. You know, it's a yo mama, okay? What does Jesus warn about in that little passage in the Sermon on the Mount, the one we kind of skip over because we don't really know what to do with it, the whole oaths thing? You know, what was the whole thing Jesus was talking about there? He's like, let your yes be yes and your no be no, okay? It's dealing with this kind of thing here. It's not bringing it in. I swear by the temple. Yeah, well, I swear by the gold in the temple. That's much better than just the temple, you know? Yeah, well, I swear by God above. You know, it's like, ooh, you're dragging God into this. God's like, I ain't got no part in that. What you doing? You know, same thing here. We're going to drag God into the middle of this fight. I already blamed him for why I couldn't get pregnant, so why not? I'm blaming him for you, for my stupid decision to tell you to do something stupid, and you did it. It's God's fault. And Abram said to Sarai, look, your servant is under your authority. Do to her what is, what's the next line? Good in your eyes. You define good and bad now. You eat of that tree and you tell me what's good and bad. You be the arbiter of what's right and wrong. And Sarah does. And Sarah mistreated her, and she fled from her presence. And then, really cool, and the angel of Yahweh found her at a spring of water in the wilderness, at the spring by the road of Shur, and he said to Hagar, the servant of Sarai, from where have you come? And where are you going? I always love the questions of God, right? You know, where are you, Adam? I was naked and I was hiding. And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. Yeah, kind of knew that already, but that's good. Thanks for being honest. Then the angel of Yahweh said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her authority. Oh, man, do you realize what he asked her to do? I mean, she's beating her, literally, okay? Man, this is rough. Oh, by the way, she's pregnant. She's beating a pregnant woman. You know, and she's beating the woman that's got the child that you told your husband, it's your husband's son. You know, come on now. And the angel of Yahweh said to her, I will greatly multiply your offspring so they cannot be counted for their abundance. Ooh, what was the promise given to Abram? Yeah. You know, we're seeing that promise. It's still being passed on. God is going to bless those. You know, he's going to do that. And God's going to step in here for some justice. And the angel of Yahweh said to her, and this is a poem. If you never noticed in your Bible, sometimes things get indented and formatted. So it's a poem or a song even. Okay, we had that in our lesson this morning. Behold, you are pregnant and shall have a son. And you shall call his name Ishmael, for Yahweh has listened to your suffering. And he shall be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and the hand of everyone will be against him, and he will live in hostility with all his brothers. I'm sure it sounds way better in Hebrew and more rhyming and poetic than it does in English. But there'll be, it does. It's going to be a wild ass. So there's some stuff there. Yeah, he's going to be a wild ass of a man. The hand of everyone will be against him, and he will live in hostility with all his brothers. So she called the name of Yahweh, who spoke to her, you are El Roi. For she said, here I have seen after he who sees me. See the saying? And yet who's making the judgment now on this? And this is God. And she's recognizing that. Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar had a child for Abram, a son, and Abram called the name of the son, whom Hagar bore to him Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. There is some tradition even that the well in John chapter 4 is this well. So, possibly. Yes. Ishmael versus... Huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some tradition that thinks it may be. We don't know. And a lot of that is tradition that the Samaritans have passed on, and understanding that some of their history got lost and everything in there. But yeah, behold, you're pregnant, you shall have a son, you shall name him Ishmael. Behold, you are with child, and you shall name him Emmanuel. For Yahweh has listened to your suffering, and he shall be the one that saves you. Yeah, no, isn't it fascinating? And yeah, even those connections. So that stuff starts to pop up. The more you do this, it's like any other muscle. The more you exercise it, that stuff pops out. Okay? All right. So that's those two sections of the story of Abram. One little fascinating tidbit, so to keep in mind or to look out for. It's a lovely topic to talk about, especially in a majority of a female audience. But circumcision. What's fascinating is, you know what happens after this story before God revisits and says that you're going to have, he reaffirms his covenant. He visits Abram, and that's when the circumcision happens. So what do you think's happening there? You bet he is. You tried it your way the first time. All right, now cut something off and do it my way. Your wife wasn't the one that kept children. Let's see how well you do. There's no guarantee anything would work after that. I mean, it made me a little nervous. Yeah. Because we take it for granted. Circumcision, heck, that happens to almost many babies today, you know? So it's no big deal. Of course, Abram is, you know, he was 86 years old when Hagar bore. Let's see, was it when he was 12? Ishmael was 12, I think, when he's circumcised, so we can add a few more years to... Abram's age there? So yeah. So cut the thing off that you used to abuse your servant and to try to do things your way, and let's do it my way now. Do you trust me? Look for that in especially these big moments of circumcision. There's the weird one in Exodus. If you want to know about that one, I got a video for that. We got people way smarter than me talking about Moses and Zipporah and that whole thing and bridegroom of blood thing. There's some weird stuff going on there. But moving on down the line, think about what happens when the people, they just crossed the Jordan River. They're camped outside Jericho. They're on the other side of the Jordan, okay? And what's God command them to do? Be circumcised. And when you're an army and you circumcise your entire army, what is that army going to not be doing for the next 3 weeks? Moving. Exactly. And where are they at? They're on the other side of the Jordan, camped outside Jericho. Who's scared to death of them? And it's a moment of testing. Are you going to trust me that I'm going to deliver this city into your hands? Abram, are you going to trust me that I'm going to give you a child like I said I was going to all those years ago? Do you trust me? It's a moment of testing. It's a moment of asking, do you trust me? They put themselves extremely vulnerable, and they have to wait until everybody's healed up and ready to go, which is doing wonders, I'm sure, for the psychological warfare for Jericho, because they're like, what are they doing now? They're just camped outside. So it's like, well, first off, they camped outside just for a month, and then they're going to march around the city for, what are they doing? Like, they're crazy. They're nuts. Okay. Yeah, so that was just a free bonus one there. But, all right, so homework you guys did. Was there anything that popped out? So real quick, somebody just say, hey, I did this story, and it popped out. Did you learn anything? Well, first off, did anybody if somebody did it, which one did you do? 9:18 through 22. I closed my computer. I don't have. Oh, wait a minute. I do have my key. I got my cheats. I got that one. Okay. Yeah, Genesis 9:18 through 22. Short one. So chapter 9 means we're going to be what? We are time of Noah here. 18 through 22. So 18. So this is lovely. It's part of a little bit of a genealogy here. So this is the weird one. Yeah. So the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. Warning. I could pop that whole thing about Canaan. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the earth. All over. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. Oh, he's a man of the soil. He plants a vineyard. What's that? Garden. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When he drank some of his wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ooh. Fruit. And also, he took the fruit, and then he did what? He was naked. Yeah. Yep. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. And so that's what? That's shame, right? There's some shame. So something shameful happens in this time period, okay? Yeah. And so just in those, we've got the garden, we've got nakedness, we've got fruit, we took of the fruit, we've got shame that's coming from that, the nakedness and the shamefulness in that. Uncover, yeah, covering and then uncover, yeah. Uncovering and uncover. Yeah. Yeah, the dirt. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of an Adam, for lack of better terms, we'll call him Adam 2.0. That'd be Jesus. This would be like Adam 1.2. I won't even give him 1.5. Just say 1.2 maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he gets the same mandate. Yeah, he does give him the same mandate. So, just again, the whole about he saw his father, the drunkenness, there's always a knowing thing, and knowing always means in this context, it's always sexual, okay? So, and then there's a reason it's Canaan is cursed, not Ham, because Canaan is most likely born of a cursed situation. All right, anybody else have another one they did? If not, I'll pick something. How about Genesis 25? 21 through 28. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. Ooh, that should be a flashback to Abram and Sarah, right? Okay, so there's your hyperlink back. And so we might see that, wait a minute. So with Sarah, we had a conflict between brothers, right? Wonder if something's going to happen. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife, Rebekah, became pregnant. The babies jostled within her, and she said, why is this happening to me? So she went to inquire of the Lord. That's all positive. The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Okay, we see the situation. We look at the prophetic nature of that. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau, which means red. If you look in the footnote there. Or hairy, sorry. And also named Edom because he was red, so he was very hairy. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel. Warning sounds. So he was named Jacob, which means he grasped the heel, but also liar, deceiver. Yeah, so this should tell us something about this family dynamic. Is it going to be a positive one? Oh, we got problems. Now, they just got born, like they literally, we're talking minutes, at this point. So yeah, Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth. Then the boys grew up. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man, staying among the tents. Where did Esau go? He went out in the wilderness. Yeah, he's out in the wilderness. Good things happen in the wilderness? Typically not. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Ooh, got conflict. Yeah, so that'd be a problematic one. All right, let's go to, and I did this one night, but Judges 6. Get into Judges here real quick. Oh, wait a minute. I had the wrong thing on my note here. Oh, that is not right. I mean, that's the story of Gideon. Yeah, I got Judges 4. Yeah. Yeah, that there's definitely one there. Yes, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. This is not the story you're looking for. Nobody got that? I apologize for that. Huh? You got that one? Yeah, okay. All right, just make sure you all caught that there. Okay, well, we'll do that. Okay, Judges 6:11-27 here. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in the winepress to keep from the Midianites. So where are we at? We got a tree, right? We're at an oak, right? The oak in Ophrah. So it's going to be testing. And oh my word, do we have testing with the story of Gideon. Oh my word, do we have testing. And it's not just God testing Gideon. Gideon's like, let's play this test in both directions. I'm going to put the Lord to the test on some stuff here. Yeah. This is a perfect example of a story, of a situation where the Bible is descriptive, not prescriptive. The Bible is describing what people did. Does not mean you should do that. So don't be setting fleeces out. Because then God gets his payback. Because after finally Gideon says, all right, fine, Lord, I'll do it. And they get to the river, what's God say? We're going to get rid of all your army. Now you can do it with 300 men. Yeah, you tested me? Oh, son, you don't know about testing. Let me talk about some testing. I will test you. Be careful asking God for things. Sometimes he gives you what you want. It's not always a good thing. Warning. So we're at the tree. We got the whole moment of testing on down. We see angel of the Lord. We see an altar. Now, this isn't exactly a high place. This is a low place. Remember, he's hiding. He's hiding down in a cave doing this. He's in a wine press doing this. So he's in a low place. But he does build an altar there. Okay. And again, we see all this elements of testing. Go back now to turn the page backwards to chapter 4. That was the one I was looking for. I don't know what I did on my thing. Chapter 4, we'll highlight real fast. Deborah. Does anybody know where we find Deborah starting off at the beginning of the story? Verse 5 says, she held court under the palm of Deborah. Tree. Crazy. And then we're going to encounter the commander here, Sisera. By the way, Sisera is that's a transliterated word, okay? So that is the actual wording that would be in the original text even. It's Sisera. What's that make you think of? If you, yeah, we have a snake. Yeah, so we got a snaky critter. And then Sisera goes and lays down in the tent. And what's Jael do? Yeah, she runs a tent peg through his head. Yeah. If we ain't crushed the head of the snake, yeah, did we crush the head of the snake? Yeah, we crushed the head of the snake. She crushed it good, So there's definitely there. 1 Samuel 17, and then we'll do one in the New Testament. Well, you could do lots in the New Testament, but 1 Samuel chapter 17, familiar story with children, David and Goliath. All right, let's go down here to verse 4. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath. He was one of the Anakim, one of the descendants of the Nephilim. So a giant warrior, the Gaborium. He was over 9 feet tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze, weighing 5,000 shekels on his legs. He scales, yeah. We got a scaly dude. Real scaly dude. So who do you think we're dealing with here? Yeah, we got a snake. Got a snake in the army here. We go on down, and what does David do? We know the story. Yeah, smacks him in the head, and then here's the Bible trivia that we don't always, because we skipped this part in the children's story. How does David kill Goliath? Yeah, man, that's humiliating, that just adds insult to injury there. He cuts his head off. Yeah, we don't tell that one in the nursery story. We say, and David slung the stone, hit Goliath in the head, and he fell down. End of the story. Not so much. David runs over, pulls that sword, and lops off his head. Right. And then what's David do? He pulls that sword, he slashes it off his head. He probably had to chop it. He's a big guy, has a thick neck bone. You got to get through that bone, Might have to do a few slings at it. Swings that chop in there. It's ugly. But yeah, he slays the serpent, right? And wait a minute, who's David? Well, we already know who David is, right? David's going to be a deliverer for God's people. And David is what? He's the seed of the woman. It's like, oh, is this the one we're looking for? And then we find out the story of David, and we realize, yeah, David's got an exposed heel, don't he? Because we got Bathsheba, and we got the whole thing with the sons, and it gets ugly real fast. And so we're like, David's not the one. Darn it. Like we thought, Noah, Adam 2.0. And he gets drunk, and yeah, not so much. So, and look for that too. See the moments of the seed of the woman, and we can get so excited. It's like if the story just put a period right there, and we ended that story, but we didn't. And it's like, oh, because who are we looking for? We're still looking for, Right, turn it on, Don. We're looking for the Messiah. We're going to encounter a lot of Messiahs and a lot of anointed ones, but we're looking for the one, in the story on that. Speaking of the Messiah, so where does Jesus go for his moment of testing? In the wilderness. How long is he there? 40 days, yeah. And then who he's encountering, he found the snake. So what are we replaying? We're replaying so many things with those 40 days. But yeah, and then here's another moment of testing for Jesus. Maybe what I've noted here. Let me go. Mark 14. Then I write down what that one was. I think I know what it is, though. I think that's what I want. Yes, it's what I want. Mark chapter 14. One of the largest chapters in Mark. So where's Jesus at during Mark chapter 14? He's in the Garden of Gethsemane. If you haven't got there yet, I flipped ahead. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's where he's spending his time there. And what is he doing there? He's praying, isn't he? And what's he praying? What's he warned his disciples to do? He watch and pray. Why? So that you will not fall into temptation. What do you think Jesus is praying for, too? You talk about a moment of testing. This is it. We're at the end of the story, Well, we're not, but you know what I'm saying? This is it. Is this going to be, this is his moment. Is he going to follow the Lord's will, the Father's will? There is a, Mark doesn't record it. I think it's Matthew records this. There's a change in how Jesus prays. Because the first prayer is, Lord, if it is possible for this to pass without, take this cup from me. The next prayer is, yet not what I will, but what you will. The next prayer is, Lord, if it is not possible, let your will be done. So the first prayer is, Lord, take this away. The second prayer is, if it's not, let's go. He's got a moment of testing in a garden, right? Surrounded by what? Trees. Yeah, this is in Genesis chapter 3. Yeah, man, it's all over. And then verse 51 happens. Totally weird verse. It's like, we're just throw this little snippet of a detail in the story, and tradition holds that Mark is being biographical in this one. Verse 51, a young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked. We got a naked dude in a garden, full of trees, lots of testing. Yeah, this is Genesis chapter 3. We're replaying it. This is Adam 2.0. And then where does Jesus die? On a tree. And you know how the New Testament, how the favorite word, and sometimes we'll translate across, but not always. But reading through Acts, you know how it's almost always described? As a tree. He died on a tree. What's that supposed to make us think of? We're back to the tree. Yeah, it all points back, because it all points forward. So, there is your... I hope you never read these stories the same. So this is just the hyperlink aspect. This is the biblical themes part of it. Man, it's just all over it. Paul is the master of this. When you're reading the Pauline epistles, because Paul, and I know we're past, but I'll hurry. Paul is a Pharisee, right? He's a Pharisee of Pharisees. He studied under Gamaliel himself. Paul is a PhD, okay? And for 3 years, Paul is, he's missing. After the conversion, I think it's a 3-year period, Paul is missing. Everybody's like, I wonder what Paul was doing. I have no way of knowing, but what I think Paul is doing, I think Paul is gathering up all his scrolls and rereading them. And for the first time, Paul is seeing some things we just saw. And Paul is going, oh, my word, Lord. Lord, I apologize. Lord, please forgive me. And oh, my word, Lord, bring it on. And then Paul applies that. You can read just so much of Paul. You just pick up and like, oh, that's what Paul's doing with that. Oh, Paul is thinking of this story, Anytime he's quoting stuff, I think, just the one-liners. Because to a Hebrew audience, they know all these verses. And yes, he's Paul is the apostle to the Gentiles, but it's usually a mixed group. The churches are mixed groups. Where does Paul always start? He always starts in a synagogue, right? He converts his fellow brothers, and then he brings the Gentiles in, alongside with that. And so Paul is writing to a Jewish audience that has a Jewish understanding, and so he can say these one-liners. Remember we talked about, they didn't have chapters and verses. They would say, in the beginning, boom, Genesis 1:1, and we know the whole section. That's what Paul is doing. And so he knows this stuff inside and out. And so he's able to quote this. And whenever you encounter that, you need to go back and say, what is the whole story that Paul is talking about? He's pointing out one little line of it. What is the whole entire story? It's just there's just so much in that. Because when you take those one-liners, you have to be careful. We take those one-liners and we develop an entire theology of one teeny tiny verse without actually paying attention to the context that was related to. And then we find out that that's when things don't start to make sense anymore. We start mixing stuff up. And Ephesians is key in that. All of the Pauline epistles, really all of them. Again, think about John. Even the First John, 2nd John, 3rd John. It's all about love, right? And then he points back to John. You read, he's the apostle that God loved, or Jesus loved. And then John starts his epistle out with, in the beginning, and then he starts, Revelation is, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And we got Genesis 1:1, and it's awesome. And again, man, this is good literature, ain't it? That's been compiled over a period of 1,000+ years. Think about that, and how the interconnection, the interplay, as someone said, it's almost like it was inspired. Crazy. Right, exactly. So, all right. Any questions? All right. Next week we have the worship and praise. This week following that, we will jump into everybody's second favorite two genealogies. Probably is the law. So we love the law. That's the section. So everybody's reading. Genesis is exciting. Let's be honest. It's exciting. And then we get Exodus. Oh, everybody loves a good good war story, right? And then we get to the second half of Genesis or Exodus, and we're like, ooh, starting to hit the brakes, and we hit Leviticus, like, I'm done. There's your annual Bible reading stops, by Leviticus, If you make it to, just skip to Joshua and Judges. Let's just skip ahead. And then we'll skip the sections of the genealogies. Again, we'll just pass over those. We don't want to care about those. So, okay. Anything else? I know I've asked that 16 times. So, again, any questions? Seriously, if you have questions, I don't have the answers. But you know what? We're sitting in a group, and we might have the answers together. So, because, again, the Bible is designed in community. It was written in community. And, it's to be read in community. And we are community. So, all right, let's close in prayer. Lord, we thank you for your word. Lord, I just thank you of the beauty of the word, the work that you work through these hands to put it this